So, when did you first notice the early signs that something felt different with Ashley?
Um, okay, first let me that's a great question. First, let me share this. March is March 30th is Bipolar Awareness Day. But here at the Wendellman Foundation, of course, naturally, we are raising awareness through the entire month, not just every day, but the entire month of March, to highlight and raise awareness for bipolar disorder. So, with that said, there are a lot of signs that were there that I either A, didn't understand, B, um, I'm going to say we all have our good days and our bad days. So when you look at the signs that people say to pay attention to, it does not necessarily mean that a person is bipolar. So I think for me, I literally had to sit down and think about some of those signs. So what I'm going to share is that because I have beat myself up many times because I as a parent, you pay attention to your child. You pay attention to your kids. You know what they're going to do before they do it. You know what they're going to say before they say it most times because, you're just actively involved in your child's life. So what I'm going to say is let me share a couple of the signs that Ashley displays and what she still displays to this day. And perhaps this will help others because I just didn't know. So let me use one. One of the signs is she has a lot of manic highs and lows. So her manic highs is, for example, she may have like extreme mood swings. And those extreme mood swings, I can't talk. Those extreme mood swings is anger and irritability. And it is magnified times 10. And it can spark at any given moment, especially if she's triggered. If something triggers her, then she goes off like that, and in a matter of seconds. And a lot of times it catches you off guard. You think about, as a woman, we have our monthly cycles, our monthly menstruation cycles, and we already have during that time of the month. We get irritable and we have anger and all of that because your hormones are raging and so on and so forth, right? Same thing with when you're going through menopause. When you're going through menopause, it's the same thing. Anger and irritability, it happens because again, it's just life stuff. But with her, she has extreme mood swings, and it's hard to determine when something's going to happen. Like 1 minute she's okay, the next minute she's not. So that's challenging. The behavior, a lot of the behavior that she displays or shows is, some of it is the reduced need to sleep. She stays up 24 hours all night and will not sleep. That's one. So basically the reduced need for sleep. Now she's always been one to, it's like a night owl. Sleep all day, up all night. And it's like now that so in hindsight, talking about this now, I'm looking at some of the things that she was doing that the signs are right there in my face, but I just didn't, you just didn't think about it. I mean, for example, when you hear me say the reduced need for sleep, like when you have teenagers are, they sleep all day, they're up all night, no matter how many times you tell them to get up and provide some structure there, that's just what they do. So you don't think of that as a sign of bipolar, but it actually ended up being one, if that makes any sense. When she's upset, when she has her manic high, she talks so fast, and I know I talk fast. I have to slow myself down. But she's like, and you just looking at her. I mean, I look at her like, I mean, it's bizarre, right? Right? But that's what they do. She talks so fast, and then her eyes get really big because she's trying to make her point, and it's just like really weird. But yeah, so she talks very fast. They also have racing thoughts. I don't know what it feels like to experience being bipolar, but I mean, the racing thoughts would explain. I think we've talked about this before. The racing thoughts would explain why at one point she smoked so much marijuana. It didn't make any. I couldn't understand. I couldn't fathom. but it would explain it. Now, I'm not a marijuana connoisseur. I have no idea, but I understand that it does calm you down, I guess. And I think that's why she smoked so much of it, because it calmed her. And one of the other things too is high impulsivity. So I have so many examples. So let's just think, okay, when you think about high impulsivity, a lot of risky behavior. She spends money like water. As soon as money hits her hand, it's gone. And she has no self-control. I think about how, for example, let's use her EBT card as an example. With her EBT card, there was a couple times where, obviously she had her car, she's doing what she's supposed to do. We went to the store, whatever. But there was a few times where we went to the store and I couldn't understand why she didn't have any money to spend on the little items, whatever we were getting. So I had to pay for it. And I just, after that, it happened quite a few times. So this is just one of many examples. But after that happened, quite a few times, I said, okay, I don't know what's going on with you, but I tell you what, you're going to give me your card. And ever since then, I manage her EBT card because she was leaving herself with no money, and she had nothing to show for. And she would go to the ATM every 5 minutes, and she doesn't understand that going to the ATM, for example, those fees add up. No matter how many times I've explained it, no matter how many times I shared it, that's what she does, right? And so she doesn't know how to manage her money at all. So it comes from, again, it's impulsivity. When you think about something as small as, let's use toilet paper as an example. She goes through a roll of toilet paper in a matter of days. And when I say days, I'm not talking about a week. I mean, I'm just like, what are you doing when you go to the bathroom? Are you just taking it and just wrapping it around your finger? I mean, not your finger, around your hand, and just use the whole roll. I'm just, so it's there's no self-control. So those are signs of self-control. And then you think about it with teenagers, because they don't understand that they're not responsible for paying for anything and yada yada yada. They don't think about those things, right? And so these are some of the signs, using it as an example that I've experienced with her, where I was not able to determine what the signs are. So I think that people can talk about and share the signs and symptoms all day long, but lived experience is what teaches you best and what helps you to understand what it's really like for someone who is living with bipolar disorder. And then like her poor decision making skills. She doesn't make the right decisions at all. But then think about that, for example, when you have teenagers, they don't always make the best decisions, right?
Like children.
So, yeah, exactly. They're like children. So, and then as a parent, you step back a little bit, because in order for you to learn, you have to make some mistakes. You're going to fall, or you're going to fall. But what matters is that you fail forward, that you don't just stay stuck. But with her, it was, let me just say it this way. I had already accepted the reality that she was either going to be in jail or she was going to have her early death, and I would be burying her before I buried myself or even my mother at this point, right? Because of the risky behavior, the things she was doing. I mean, she was off the chart. She has been in and out of, she's had many run-ins with the law. She hasn't spent any time in jail. Wait, that's not true. She spent like 24 hours, I think, in jail a couple times. But nothing where she stayed for an extended period of time. And here's the part that I thought was like really interesting. She did just enough and she did enough risky behavior, if you will, to just one thing, every day it was something. She did just enough to make sure she didn't really spend any significant time in jail. I'll say it that way, right? And so she was smart enough to know to stop, but she just kept going. It was just interesting. I mean, she's been into car accidents. I don't even know how she's still living to this day. I do know how, but she's been in car accidents, run-ins with cops, DC, Maryland cops. I mean, it was just always something, right? And it got to the point where I had to be honest and share, because of the people that I was supporting, the level of just the people that I was supporting. I called my mom. I said, listen, I can't have my hand or my name in any of this. So my mom would go and we would go together, but my mom would put everything in her name. Because, say it again.
For the records.
Yeah. For the records and all that. I had my mom put it in her name because I couldn't risk it. I couldn't risk it. I could not run the risk of being associated with my hellion on
Unfortunately.
wheels. Yes. But I mean, I was there doing, I was there, of course, and it was just a lot. So just using it as an example, but that would explain too why she, again, is deathly afraid of police. She doesn't like police at all. She cannot hold a job. Like, she can't hold a job long term. The most she can work, it was about, I think at one point it was like maybe half day, maybe 20 hours
The
a week.
most?
That was the most time she could work, and she couldn't sustain that. So it was just a lot of little different signs. So let's talk about her lows. Her lows. Oh, wait. Her because her bipolar was left untreated for so many years, because again, officially January 2019, she was extracted from the house, via I don't know what you call it, but when they come get you and they take you from your home and they take you to a medical facility because you're not in your right frame of mind. I don't know what they call it, but she was extracted from the house and taken to the hospital, and in 2019 she was officially diagnosed with, again, bipolar, severe psychosis, and and moderate depression. The challenge was, or has been, for years, she was in denial. And unfortunately, when you are in denial and you leave something untreated, you make something 10 times worse. So it was magnified times 30. And as a result of that, hallucinations began to start, and hence where we are today, severe psychosis. So, it's interesting because even to this day, well, she's on medication now, of course, and she's doing well. I mean, she's 34, and it's been about a year and a half. She is more stable now than she has been, I'm going to say, since 2019.
That's a huge step.
Yes. So she's more stable now. And what I'm going to share is that, unfortunately, the medication, one of her medication, she's only on 3, right? But one medication in particular is to manage her psychosis, to keep her sane. No, not saying keep her stable is the wording that the doctors have told me what it does, is it keeps her stable. But one thing that, people should know is that, and I had to learn this myself, when you take the medication that they give you, aside from the side effects and all that, the medication, it doesn't fix the problem. What it does is keep you stable. That's what it does. And I had to learn that. So with the psychosis, the medication she's taking to manage her psychosis, I think she's on a very low dosage, and she's taking like 5 milligrams. And one day, I cannot remember what it was. You talk to the medical team, I can't remember. So the doctor had increased her that medication
dosage.
By the dosage, it increased the dosage by 2 milligrams. So it was like 7.5 to 7. So anyway, my point here is, I don't know if she is consciously aware of what she's doing, but the medication that she takes causes her to have conversations with things, or should say people that's not there, right? And so when I talked to the doctor about it, she said, okay, well, I tell you what, we're going to take her back down to 5 milligrams. And so she still talks to herself, but she holds these conversations, but it's not as bad as it was when the dosage was increased by 2 milligrams. Right. So my point is that the medication that she's on to manage her psychosis, which keeps her stable, she has conversations with herself. And imagine, and then there's times where she's cracking up. She sits there, like, for example, we could be in a car, going to the store or wherever, and she will sit there and she will just all of a sudden just start laughing and cracking up, having a good time. And I stop and I look, and because some days I forget. I won't lie. Some days I'm like, what's going on? What are we doing? But then I have to caveat and say that, some are not necessarily going to feed into, not going to believe this, because everyone has their own beliefs. But people do have gifts. psychic gifts, and people do have the ability to see spirit, to talk to spirit. Those that have transitioned, so on and so forth, right? So it does occur. So initially, before I even talked to the doctor, I asked the doctor who, what was really going on, because she would tell me that she would see her grandfather. She would tell me she would see her grandfather who has passed on, and yeah, I don't know. So it just got to a point where, again, to this day, she has conversations with herself, and she doesn't even recognize that I can hear her having conversations, and she carries on a full-blown conversation. And it is it's really bizarre, but this is just what they do. It's an end result of I don't want to say it's a consequence, because that's not the right wording. I'm going to say it is a result of the psychosis. Like, this is what actually
the imaginations
happens. The imaginations, the hallucinations, having conversations with people that are not even there. Yeah, I mean, it blows your mind, and then think about this. You think about, people that are, and that's because we're gonna talk about bipolar, because I'm not gonna think about schizophrenia and the others, but you think about bipolar, people often will commit suicide, right? And so let me tell you what I have to do. I have to ask my own daughter, does she feel, I ask her, is anyone telling you to harm yourself? I have to ask her that question. Is anyone asking you to harm yourself? And then another question that I have to ask from time to time, I ask it periodically, because I pay attention, right? I'm very aware and alert. So I pay attention. So I always ask, okay, well, are you, how are you feeling? Are you having thoughts of suicide? Are you feeling like you want to harm yourself, right? So, as hard as that may be, I really do have to ask those questions. And that is not a position that I like being put in, quite frankly.
That's not an easy question to ask as well. Like,
no, it's not. But that is my reality. That is my reality, and that's what happens every day. Not every day, but it does happen. So I can't tell you how often, because I don't know. I don't really pay attention to how often. I just know that the doctor did tell me that, she is going to have conversations with herself. She said, because they see things that's not there. And the doctor told me that as long as no one is telling her to harm herself, she told me don't worry about it. And I'm telling you, that was a hard pill to swallow, because when I tell you, at one point, I felt like my home had turned into a mental hospital, if you will, or a mental ward, if that makes any sense. But you power through, and you always remember that. I mean, I'm very spiritual based anyway, so I always remember that God never puts any more on you than you can handle, and that is what helps me to power through and get through, and continue to support and help her as I have been doing. But yeah, I have to do that, and that is not something that I don't like doing it, quite frankly. And this is one of the reasons why you heard me talk about caregivers a lot, because caregivers, you're put into a situation where you have to take care of someone, or you take care of someone, loved one, whatever. You take care of someone, and you're doing the best that you can, that you know how. You've heard me say many, many times that computers is my expertise. Not, I didn't go to school for medical. I mean, nah, that's just not. I don't have any interest in the medical field, right? I mean, I did at one point many years ago, but that was many years ago. I mean, many years ago. So my point is that my expertise is in computers, and as a caregiver, I have been forced, if you will, to learn and understand bipolar, because I had to understand the bipolar disorder to be able to support her. And as a caregiver, you begin to lose focus and lose track of taking care of yourself, because you're so busy taking care of another person, right? So anyway, but that's one of the joys of being a caregiver, is that I do have to ask that question that I don't like asking. So let's talk about her manic lows. Her manic lows, this is where her depression comes in. I do see the behavior of her, I'm going to say maybe feeling worthless, maybe hopeless. Her confidence level is at an all-time low. Her energy level, no energy. It was to the point where she would struggle to get it. Matter of fact, she wouldn't even get out of bed. She would struggle to take a shower. I mean, think about this for a second. every single day, no matter where you are geographically in the world, right? We all have this routine that we do, right? We all get up in the morning, take a shower, wash our face, brush our teeth, whatever our hygiene routine is. When you think about someone that has a manic low, they have no energy, they just can't get out of bed, they can't do those basic things. I'm telling you, wash your hair. It's a sight to be seen. And
it's like a chore for her.
Yeah, I guess that's a great way to characterize it. I don't know. I think there's been a few times, no, it's been quite more than a few times, where she was smelling so bad, and I was like, I would look at her and like, you need to go get clean, because I can't take this anymore. And then I would literally force her to get into the shower because I couldn't take it. I mean, that's how bad she was smelling, and I've just never seen anything like it. I'm going to say she's better now. She will take showers daily now. She is taking medication for her depression. So she does have the ability to now to get out the bed and take a shower. But her energy level is still really low. I mean, I also have her taking B12, B complex or whatever it is, I think both, to give her the energy boost that she needs, because you need medication, yes, but I don't like to over medicate. I don't like to do that, because medication fixes one thing, but it causes another problem. But when you have situations such as what her disorder she's dealing with, she has to take medication, right? And so what I do is I also have her on a regimen of natural herbs. So even though she's on her medication, she has timers that set off. Let's say like 9 o'clock, she may take like her depression meds. And then I wait 2 hours, and then she takes her other herbs, like natural herbs, like throughout the day. And I have her taking liquid herbs, because liquid herbs, it gets through your body, it gets into your bloodstream a lot faster than I don't do pills, because pills are so processed. So there's no value in taking the pills. But so anyway, so I'm just sharing that her energy level is it's really low. What was I going to say? There's more. There's so much more. Her cognitive skills. Her cognitive skills is lacking. Her concentration is not there. She cannot follow instructions. She can't count money. Her memory recall is not there at all. Mm-hmm. Some of the memory recall is a side effect of the meds, one of the meds. But I think I shared before, dementia also runs on her dad's side of the family. Mm-hmm. So it all adds to it, and then again, when you are bipolar, I forget I don't know what it's called, but it's the prefrontal or something, that part of the brain.
Prefrontal cortex.
Okay. Let me find out. So wait, do we got a medical school over there? No, I'm just joking. But no, really. So that part of the brain that impacts your ability to make decisions, concentration, and I guess judgment or whatever. I guess that it rules that part of the brain, and it's just not there. So as a result, I have to do a lot of things for her. Again, like I said, I manage all her finances. I've had to have that difficult conversation with her because she has displayed her memory. Again, her memory recall is not there. So I, at her age, I literally had to do a medical POA, power of attorney, and a durable power of attorney. I mean, you think about it, me at my age, and I'm not old, but I am, mature, right? And so you have to make sure that you set those things up for yourself, because you want to make sure you don't want to leave your family. I don't want to leave my children to have to do certain things for me, right? So responsibly, you want to make sure you set those things up, your affairs up, your final affairs. But my point is that with her, I've had to do that already, and for her, yeah, I've had to do that. And so in order for me to imagine explaining things to her, it's exhausting. It's very exhausting. And for me, my mind processes a lot of times like a computer, and I don't know, maybe because I've been around them for so long, but you think about it with computers, you have input, you have processing, and you have output. And so a lot of times communicating with her and explaining things to her to make sure she understands is very exhausting. I would explain something to her. Let's just say that I know that we're going to do something, whatever day. So I will let her know, like, explain it 3 days in advance, and then the next day I'll explain it again, and then the next day I'll explain it again, and then about an hour or two before we do it, I'll explain it again, and still she doesn't remember. And so it's a lot, right? And so her cognitive hurt. She's not able to concentrate. If you think about a recipe, if you know how you follow the recipe, you want to bake. Well, I'm not a baker. I'm a cook, right? So let's just say, if I'm making a turkey as an example, right? And there's and I gave you a recipe to follow to cook the turkey, to cook a turkey, she can't follow it. Cooking, she can't cook. So there's been several times where she has to be watched. Like, I hate to say this way, characterize it this way, but this is the reality. She has to be watched like she's a kid. And there's been several times where she would leave the gas on the stove. She would leave the gas on. One day it was so bad, I freaked out. I freaked out and I panicked. And I was like, oh my God, all I smell is gas. Oh my God. No, really, I'm joking now, but I was scared as hell that day.
But good thing you're at home that time.
I was like, that was an oh shit moment, right? And I was like, how am I going to get all this gas out? I mean, obviously I turned the pallet off, but I was like, oh my gosh, how am I going to get all this gas out? And she's a smoker. She's a smoker. A chain smoker, by the way, but she's a smoker. She doesn't smoke inside because that's the rule. I don't like smoking, period, but I can't, so she's a smoker. And I was like, oh, and I like to light my candles. I light my incense, my frankincense, my nag champa, just different things, right? And that day, I'm so glad I didn't have anything lit. There was no fire, no nothing, you know what I mean? When you're using a lighter or what have you, I'm so glad I didn't, because that day we would have been all torched. So I had to get to a point where at one point I had to restrict her from using the oven at all. And I was like, look, make a sandwich because I can't.
No fire,
right? No fire. And then finally she got to the point where with her medication, she was able to at least boil water and make like oatmeal or something like that, and then I basically taught her how to cook things in the oven without, I just taught her how to use the oven. And make sandwiches and things of the sort. And, I literally had to teach her all over again. I mean, imagine this. You're an adult, you're 34 years old. And, when you rear your kids, you teach them those things as they're growing up, structure, discipline, blah, 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 blah. Well, I'm teaching her all over again. I've had to teach her all over again of how to do the basic things to survive, literally. So that has been, has been interesting. I'll share a story with you with one of the things with psychosis. I mean, I have many stories, but let me just share something that will give you an example or an idea of the psychosis piece. One day, she was still raw in terms of going through her journey, starting her recovery journey. As I shared, because I kept running into a brick wall, seeking to get the help that I wanted to get or for her. I just said, forget it. I turned my home into a transitional home for her. And again, I began to nurse her health. But as I was going through this journey with her, it was still raw, still new. One of the things that I don't know, one day we were talking and all of a sudden she says, well, I know what it was. I was asking because I wasn't there. And I think the story that I shared before of how she ended up coming back with me in November 2024 was, what was it? It was where she was. She had broken all of the windows out the house, and she chased people in the home. She chased them around the house with the butcher knife and so on and so forth. So I think one day, as a result of that, I think I was slowly asking questions to see what I could get out of her, if that makes any sense. And she opened up and she just started talking. And one day, this is what she said to me. She said, using that example with the house of breaking all the windows out, she said, well, the devil made me do it. This is what she said to me. She said, the devil made me do it. Then she started giving me different examples of how the devil was around and what he was having her do. And she told me about different people that was going on with different people in terms of it was all negative, all dark. And I'm telling you, to hear her talk about the devil made her do it, And she said, well, the devil don't bother me. He doesn't bother me at all. And I'm telling you, it's almost like I had whiplash. When she said that, I turned around so quick. I said, say what? It startled me. So let me tell you what I did. I immediately, I got up. I used, I'm spiritual anyway. I used Palo Santo. I immediately blessed her. I turned into a priest. I grew up Catholic. I turned myself into a priest that day. I was so quick and so fast. I was like, oh no! I called on Archangel Michael, and I immediately started saying my prayers. I blessed her, and I used Palo Santo to bless her. Again, I called on Archangel Michael. I called on all the archangels that day, actually. And I immediately picked up the Bible, and I pulled out a couple different verses in the Bible, and I read them to her, and I had her read them as well. And I'm gonna tell you again, I call myself performing a Chavella exorcism because I couldn't take it. I was like, we're not doing it. So then I ended up blessing. As a result of it, I blessed her. I blessed my place. I blessed the place to get all that negativity and get that negative energy out. I did that. And what else did I do? I could go on and on. I mean, I also have like some salt. And the salt that I had gotten from church. And matter of fact, it's the same salt that they use for exorcisms in Catholicism. So, but honestly, I took the salt and I put it in because my grandmother, oh my God, my grandmother is 102. She is Mother Mary herself. So I talked to her about it as well, and she said, take some salt, put it in the four corners of the room, old school, because she's 102. So I did that, and I made a copy of there's certain Bible verses that I wanted her to say every day. And at that moment, once I performed my version of an exorcism and prayers and so on and so forth, what I did was I set up a regimen, and I set up a routine. She has to have a highly structured routine, a daily highly structured routine. If not, then it's going to be a disaster. So a part of her routine is I have some prayers that I have her saying every day to make sure that we keep those types of entities away. Because when there's truth to this when you hear to say that the devil preys on the weak. And she's defenseless. She can't defend or protect herself. She doesn't understand a lot of different things. So I have to make sure that I do that for her. But speaking about a highly structured routine, I also have like a calendar and a list of activities for her. You do this, do this, do this, do this, do this, do this. I have to do that. If I don't do that, she doesn't think to do certain things on her own. So yeah. So when you talk about the signs of bipolar, I mean, these are the things that that I experience with her every single day. She's better now because she's been stable now for about a year and a half, but still, you think about some of those things I shared in the manic highs and the manic lows, the triggers, the psychosis. But many years ago, she didn't have psychosis. So I think, again, I'm not a doctor, but I believe the psychosis is a result of leaving the bipolar untreated. Because you can have an extreme anger and irritability, but that doesn't always mean you're bipolar. That just means you might be having you could be having like a really bad day. You don't know what's happening with what's going on with people every single day. I'm not making excuses for it. I'm just sharing that this is a reality. We don't know what people are dealing with every single day. So with that said, when I come across people, no matter where I am, no matter who you are, no matter what you look like, I do my best to share. You share a smile. You say something nice to a person. I've had many people come to me and tell me that. They'll say, well, you know what, I was having a bad day that day, but you came to me or whatever, and we talked, and they will tell me, you have no idea how that made me feel that day. So my point is, in a good way, all I'm sharing here is that, just because a person has anger displays anger or irritability, that does not automatically mean that that's bipolar. So what I'm sharing is a lot of these signs and symptoms of bipolar is easily to overlook them, because you can easily overlook it. Mm-hmm. So I'm going to close that segment, and I'm going to say that about bipolar, and I'm going to share this and say, if anyone is living with bipolar disorder, or if you think someone is experiencing some of the things that I've shared here today, I would definitely encourage you to, either what do you call it, like a bipolar test. I mean, they offer tests that they have online that you can take, or maybe go talk to a therapist, or maybe go talk to your doctor, or go talk to a confidant, talk to someone that you trust, that you feel comfortable with communicating and sharing, that you may think that there may be a challenge or something that you're dealing with. And I think that's a lot of what we see today. And what I mean by that is, you would hear that a person has either committed suicide, and it's not until after they've committed suicide that you find out that they were struggling and or living with bipolar disorder. But by that time, it's too late. The person has already committed suicide. So what can you do at that point? You can't do anything at all at that point if a person has committed suicide. So, or a lot of times what we see today is, once that happens, a person will always talk about, oh, well, if you know someone that's going to commit, did you think is going to commit suicide, get some help. Well, the challenge is people don't know how to get help. Either they don't know how to get help, they don't know where to go, or they feel ashamed. And or they don't know what they're dealing with themselves, or how can they go and get the help that they don't know that they need. I mean, using Ashley as an example, it was a challenge to get her to get some help. I mean, that was not easy. So I'm going to say, get some help. That's what I'm going to say. So I'm going to pause there because I can say a whole lot to that one. What I'm going to say is, one of the things that when I was talking about her Ashley's cognitive skills, one of the things that I left out is, because of her cognitive skills and me having to teach her how to survive and or live and function as an adult, independent adult. I'm going to say this is one of the reasons why I submitted her paperwork for disability, because she cannot hold a job. She wants to work, but she can't hold a job. You can't. How can you work for 20 hours and she's so exhausted? She her relationship. She doesn't respect authority. She doesn't get along with other people. Her relationships with other people, it's just not there. So one of the things that I know that I left out by mistake is she withdraws from social activities. She withdraws from social activities. You can't get her out the house. She self-isolates, and isolation is not good. I watched her go to the bathroom in the dark. She takes showers in the dark, and I'm like, girl, come on, bring yourself to the light. But she, yeah, and it's just funny. Even going in the store, we'll go down in the aisle, and it may be one or two people in the aisle. She will avoid those people and go around, and I'm looking for her, like, where did she go? Where did she go? And then she comes around the other side. She doesn't want to be around people. So I don't know what that means. Maybe it's because she's protecting herself, possibly. I really don't know. Maybe avoiding coming in contact with people. But that is something that she does do. And then I'm going to say one of her medications that she takes, it helps her to sleep. Because you heard me say reduce sleep, right? So one of her medications actually helps her to sleep. Because without the medication, she would not sleep.
Even until now?
Well, if she was not taking the medication, she wouldn't sleep. So it's funny. She's not on a lot of medication, believe it or not. I mean, yeah, I'm not a proponent of a lot of medication, no. But one of her meds is for her to sleep, because she's not sleeping. She will be up for 24 hours. She won't sleep at all. So now, with her medication, she takes her last meds, like around 9:00 at night, as well as her other one, to make sure that she remains stable. She takes those like around 9:00 at night, and within 45 minutes she sleeps. So she actually sleeps all night long. Throughout the night, she actually gets her rest. So yeah, I just I'm going to just again close this with and just say that with the talking about the bipolar signs is, again, lived experience. Lived experience, in my opinion, is the best way for a person to truly understand what it means. I will never understand what it means to live with bipolar, but I do understand what it's like to support and care for someone that is living with bipolar. And again, it was just lived experience. Had I not seen it with my own eyes, I would not have believed it.